Yep. Very good. Good evening. I'm going to call to order the report of the Finance Committee on November 20th, 2019, here in the Automatic Chamber. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman O'Brien.
Present.
Alderman Laws. Here. Alderman Kelly is here. Alderman Karen.
Here.
Alderman Harry Gathright.
Present.
Alderman Klee.
Here.
6 members present.
Okay. Also present will be Dan Coogan, Purchasing Manager, John Griffin, CFO and Controller, and Ms. Kim Kleiner is also here as well. Demir is out of town, so I'll be the acting chair for tonight's meeting. Public comment. Anybody from the public would like to come up and address the board? Seeing none. Communications.
Communication from Mayor Jim Donchis regarding change order number 2 on Monica Drive drainage improvements. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and authorize change order number 2, which increases the new total from $172,880 to $175,880, an increase of $3,000. The increase is to replace a partially collapsed sewer pipe behind City Hall and the Transit Center on Garden Street.
Okay. Is there anybody from the city of wastewater or that want to bring this up? Seeing none, I think it's self-explanatory, a collapsed sewer pipe, so best to fix it, so absolutely. All right. Seeing any questions by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of training safety vehicle with a value of $52,709. Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, SURF. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of a training safety vehicle to Colonial Municipal Group in the amount of $38,538 and vehicle fit-up from Global Public Safety in the amount of $14,171 for a total of $52,709. Funds are available in Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, SURF.
Okay. And I see we have the fire chief and we have a deputy chief present. Would you like to come up if you wish, if there's any questions? You can sit to the right of Mr. Coogan. Is there any questions from members of the board?
This replaced.
On this one, okay, seeing, oh, yes. Could you please come up? There is a question. Oh, we also have a commissioner. Thank you. Just to remind the gentleman, when you speak, please identify yourself for the transcript, please.
So my question is, are we replacing a vehicle? Because I didn't see it. Are you or just buying a brand-new vehicle?
Steve Buxton, Deputy Chief National Fire, and this is Kevin Burgess, Commissioner for the Fire Department. We're buying a new vehicle. It is replacing one of the training safety vehicles.
Follow up?
I was going to say, can Park Rec use it?
That is a good question. What is the age, Chief? Do you know what the age of the old vehicle is?
Here we go.
We'd have to check the schedule. I don't know off the top of my head.
Right, but I'm sure it's going to be traded in and get the value towards the new vehicle, correct?
Yes, or
Yeah.
repurposed.
Repurposed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right,
Good.
very good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Any further questions by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. To refer to the clerk.
Manager regarding NFR Master Plan Project with a value of $49,956. Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, escrow. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract for the National Fire Rescue Master Plan Project to Emergency Services Consulting International in the amount of $49,956. Funds are available in Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, escrow.
Thank you. Any questions by members of the board?
Give us a 30,000-foot overview of what's
That was
going
my
on here,
question.
if you don't mind.
If
Yeah,
you,
and,
if you don't mind,
let-
I'm going to refer to Chief
yeah.
Rhodes.
I don't mind.
let the
This is
record show
this is
Chief
his
Rhodes
project.
is sitting. Thank you, Chief.
I want the
Good evening to the committee members. Brian Rhodes. I have the pleasure of serving as your fire chief. So this request is to have a comprehensive review done of our organization. You have heard many times, and you will continue to hear, probably in my tenure, that we are very thin in the administrative section of our organization, and this is not something that we can undertake on our own. I think it is very important with the growth that is happening in our city. We are not a developing city, we are a redeveloping city. And when you look at some of the density that we are adding, we need an outside comprehensive, objective view of what's happening with our community, and can we meet the needs today, but more importantly, can we prepare for tomorrow? Another huge component of this is, there was a comprehensive study done 30 years ago. There was another one done 10 years after, so 20 years ago. Both of those studies referred to the potential need for additional fire protection in the northwest and southwest quadrants of our community. To date, respectively 20 and 30 years later, we do not have that increased fire protection in those areas of our community. But it's critically important, I think, to evaluate that now as we look to put a junior high school in one of the areas that was identified in 2 previous studies.
Follow-up, if I may?
Alderman Laws?
Thank you for that. We, last night on Performance and Economic Development, tentatively approved a master plan for the city. I can't remember offhand, are you included in the committee, or is a representative of NFD included in the committee that's going to be doing that master plan? Because I feel like there's a lot of overlap that might be happening between the two.
Mr. Chairman, if I may answer. Yes, Commissioner Grant was part of that planning committee with the aldermanic representative, Alderman Malaysia Goya was also part of that. And it is our intention to include that resolution of the city's plan for the master plan into this document once it's completed.
Excellent, thank you.
Alderman Clay? Oh, excuse me. Alderwoman Kelly?
Thank you. So I would like a little bit, I want the $15,000, the 15,000 foot view. He wanted 30, I want a little bit deeper. I know we talked about this a lot about at the time of budget, and I'm wondering, like, specifically what kind of things we're gonna get out of this. So I know you already talked about fire protection. Is it also gonna look at dispatchers, and what will we get out of the report?
This will be a I'm sorry, Mr.
No,
Chairman,
just,
may I
you
answer
can
that?
answer the question, just,
That's fine.
This will be a comprehensive, top-to-bottom review, starting with the administration. Do we have industry standard best practice administration to handle an organization of 180 personnel and over $20 million? Are we providing the appropriate service in regards to our internal customers and our training division, our dispatch services, and our external customers in our inspectional services? We have three members of our fire marshal's office for a city of 90,000 people. The town of Hudson has 3 for 30,000 people. And our employees do an incredible job, but they're overworked. And that's not from them, that's from me saying that as their boss. They do an incredible job for us, but we could do a much better service to our community. One example of that is every year we are under mandate from the state to inspect every single one of our schools. You know how many schools we have? And every year we have to get the reminder letter from the state fire marshal's office we need those inspections done. And that's not from lack of trying. That's just from the lack of the building and redevelopment and occupancy permit inspections that need to be done in a city of this size.
Okay, follow up?
So what you just voiced sounded a lot like mostly focused on personnel. Will it also look at infrastructure or, trucks or anything like that?
Well, absolutely. As,
Okay.
as I apologize, as I said, this will be a comprehensive top-to-bottom look. We'll look at unit utilization, which is the measure of vehicle X is in this district, and this vehicle is, or this company is tied up this percentage of the time where we have to move resources in from another district, thereby reducing the coverage in that district. And how are we spreading out our work? Are we overloading one of our companies more than other ones? So it's, and it's going to tell us, it's a hard look. And I've expressed that to my staff, that we need to take a hard look at our operation. And there may be things we find out that we're not doing well. And that's the key. We can always do better, but we're hopeful that this will point out the things that we can do better on, but it'll also point out the things that we're doing good at, but we could always do better at.
Thank you.
Before, we do have somebody else, another alderman in the queue to ask a question. But just to smooth the transition, Chief, what we usually do, when the alderman asks you the question, you're doing a fine job, but when the alderman asks the question, you may answer. Just the only thing that I ask, because the transcript of the meeting, it's on TV, yes, but the lady that transcribes, so just please, to remind, and this is to all our guests in particular, to identify yourself so it makes it easier when she transcribes the minutes there and everything.
My
But you're doing
apologies, Mr.
fine,
Chairman.
so that's good. Alderman Clee.
Much. Chief, the question that I have, and perhaps the master plan had taken this into consideration, and I apologize for not being, I had another meeting that I had to go to. I heard it was a great presentation you did, but one of the things that Alderman Laws and I actually were just recently discussing was intersections that are coming in. We've got like 5 roads coming into one with no stop signs and so on. And we were kind of talking amongst ourselves where some of these roads are narrow and the consideration of maybe making a couple one-ways. That would truly affect your operation, but the roads are narrow, so we're hoping that that might help you. Does this look at any of the roads that would give us, so for instance, if we were doing this, would we be able to go to you and say, look, these are our roads, how would this affect your operation? Would this kind of emergency service, or is it just looking at your services in general? Did that make sense?
Brian Rhodes, Fire Chief. No, it won't look into our infrastructure, our city infrastructure. It'll look at our response data,
Okay.
our response times, our turnout times. It'll look at, again, those times that the units that are assigned to that particular district are tied up and they're coming from somewhere else. So it doesn't really get into travel routes.
Okay.
That's a little bit deep in the weeds for this.
Okay.
But I think some of that will bear out based upon time.
Just
Yeah, follow up?
This is just a side note. So before we go further, we will talk to you about those particular roads that we're considering changing the route on them, to get your input on it, to see how it would affect you.
I greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, though.
But if I may, Chief, you all, and you say in your response data, from what I remember, you do have, as part, the commissioners do receive a monthly report or a timely report on what the response status for the apparatus to particular calls. I know that was done in the past, correct?
We do that, but the problem we have now is we've transitioned to our new records management software. So we're kind of in a little bit of a flux.
Okay.
But the good news is this is a very robust software platform that we just put into play. So instead of having to ask our superintendent of fire alarm to pull this data up and correlate it and put it into a report, you can come to my office and I can show it to you at a moment's notice now.
Right.
So,
I know when I was on the department, my concern was not so much the people within 1 mile radius of the fire station, they can make it there timely, but also you have a situation of an apparatus that may be in a remote location. What's the second due apparatus that's got to get there in a timely manner? And I know we did have sometimes 8-minute responses for the second. That's a long time. That's what I used to refer to as John Wayne time until the rest of the cavalry came. So, you know, I'm hoping that out of this report, we'll look, as you mentioned, the traffic, Alderman Clee, that would help to address that and give us a target point of maybe answering that question where we should put future stations. Alderman Laws.
I apologize in advance for the question I'm about to ask you.
Oh, boy.
And I 100% support this, and I think it's a great idea. However, everything that I'm hearing so far just seems like this may be validating the presupposition that we need more staff, administrative staff, things that sound expensive to me. Do you anticipate there's anything that we're going to find out in this master plan that may actually save money for the taxpayers?
I certainly hope so.
Yeah?
But I think it's important to realize that twice we've been named the #1 city in the United States to live in. I believe we were just named the #1 community in the state of New Hampshire to live in. If we don't plan for this, if we don't prepare for this, then that's all for naught. And it's just a heading in a 24-hour news cycle. This study is not for today. It's going to look at today. This is going to help this organization move forward and help us provide the best service we can to the citizens at the most economic price.
Alderman Laws.
I just wanted to be clear that I appreciate everything that you do, in spite of the fact that several of your employees are best friends of mine. So I just want to thank you. And I'm sure everyone in Nashua really appreciates the services you guys provide. It's wonderful.
Well, if I may, God, I've been around a long time. This will be the third report that I've witnessed within the fire department. But however, since the inception of the first, and definitely since the second, the fire department has accepted more responsibilities, and that has taken, some of the attention. And I speak mostly 20, 30 years ago. Nobody really thought of the hazmat situation. And yet we have an excellent hazmat team in the city, and that gets utilized. And at that time, they didn't take into account dive team, yet we're surrounded by water, with 2 major rivers within our community, and working with our friends on the police department too. So, there's things, looking at the future growth, that needs to take into account. The fire service has a tradition of constantly reinventing itself. A couple of years ago, one never thought of the concept of safe stations, yet today it has become part of the routine for the firefighters. At one time, we basically didn't go for a kid who fell out of a tree and broke his arm, but today, now everybody is, pretty much trained in life support. So it is constantly revolving, and I think this I'm in favor of this, because it's to have a modern department, you're going to need to look at the future and see what the needs of this community is going to be. And it is like almost $50,000, but it came out of I think, budget, if I remember, like Alderwoman Kelly said. And I think it would definitely help us as we look into the future needs of the city as far as our fire department, and improve the services. Alderwoman Kelly.
Thank you. I'm going to support this. I think that the report is going to be something that will really help us. The word you used when you were chatting just now was plan. So to Alderman Law's point, I appreciate what we're going to get out of this, but I imagine there'll be a plan to sort of phase in the things that we hear from this report.
Brian Rhodes, Fire Chief, yes. Yes, thank you for that question, absolutely. This is not an all or nothing report. This will be, we'll have options. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the members who sit in this room to decide how we're going to fund public safety, more importantly, in this case, fire protection and emergency services, to what level. So again, I think what it is going to do, it is going to equip you with the knowledge, factual knowledge, moving forward to make informed decisions for the community.
Follow-up, please.
Follow-up?
Yeah, so the other question I had was in regards to how we plan for this report in the future. So it's been 20 years since we did one. I imagine we probably don't want to wait another 20 years for the next one. So are you guys thinking about strategically how consistently we can do this plan so that we don't get 20 years behind?
Brian Rhodes, Fire Chief. So this is the first phase of this. Yes, this is a kind of 0 to 10-year plan. And hopefully after this plan, then we work on a strategic plan. And we kind of go through this and figure out what are the priorities of this. And then the strategic plan will be that 1 to 3 years, how do we get there? And how do we get there in a planned, measured, controlled fashion?
If
Oh,
I could
follow up?
Sure. So just to clarify, you're thinking we do the strategic planning and at most we do this again in 10 years?
I think that's probably a good idea. I won't be here to see that. But
Well, who's going to remind us?
we can set it in Outlook. You can set a calendar there. No, I think this is important. I mean, the community has changed. In my 3 decades of service in the city, this city has changed tremendously. And as I said, we've gone from a developing city to a redeveloping city. And the only way we're going to redevelop is up. And that presents challenges, and it presents challenges when we start increasing density in both buildings and population. So again, this is just going to be a tool to help all of us plan for the future of the organization and the city.
Thank you.
Further questions by? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you very much, Board.
I'll refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding NPD 6/2020 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicles marked with a value of $268,964. Department 150 Nashua Police Department Fund, SURF. Mr. Chair, I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of 6 2020 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicles marked to MHQ Inc. Municipal Vehicles in the amount of $268,964. Funds are available in Department 150, Nashua Police Department Fund, SURF.
I see we have 3 items that are from the police department, so if members want to, from the police department, feel free to, if they want to come up. Prepared for any questions, members of the board. Welcome, thank you. You've heard my little, to remind, identify yourself, if you get called on to speak. I'll open up to questions by members of the board. Any questions? Oh, Alderwoman Kelly.
Since you guys took the walk to sit here, I was wondering if you'd just give us a quick overview of the couple of things that are on the agenda in terms of what we're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Jim Testaverde, Deputy Chief of Police. Also with me is Brian Soika, Head of Fleet Maintenance, and Karen Smith, Head of our Finance Management. To answer the question, so the first item that you see before you is for one marked supervisor vehicle, and you'll notice the difference between the original budget and the newest quote. That's due to the fact that Ford just changed the specs on the newest model in the 2020 Ford Interceptor, and the newest model doesn't conform to our existing emergency equipment, light bars, speakers, and whatnot. So that's what the uptick is in getting new emergency equipment. Once we refit the fleet, that emergency equipment will be able to be used over and over again for all subsequent vehicles. If I may continue, The same can be said for the second item, where you see the 6 vehicles that are going to the patrol fleet. And the third item is slightly different, and I do have some handouts if it's something new that we're kind of looking to do.
If you can hold off on that, and we can handle that separately when we
Yes,
come
Mr.
to
Chair.
it on the agenda then. Okay, on the pending question, is there any other comments from members of the board? Questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding NPD 2020 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicle unmarked with a value of $42,583. The department is 150 Nashua Police Department Fund SURF. I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of 2020 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicle unmarked to MHQ Inc. Municipal Vehicles in the amount of $42,583. Funds are available in Department 150 Nashua Police Department Fund SURF.
Okay, any question by members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding NPD 2023 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicles unmarked with a value of $104,457. Department 150 Nashua Police Department Fund SURF. I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of 3 2020 Ford Police Interceptor Utility all-wheel drive vehicles unmarked to MHQ Inc. Municipal Vehicles in the amount of $104,457. Funds are available in Department 150 Nashua Police Department Fund SURF.
Is this the item you wanted to discuss?
Jim Testaverde, Police Department. It is, Mr. Chair.
Okay, please.
May I hand this out to members of the committee?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
I get two. I get two, one for the record. Thank you.
Jim Testaverde, Police Department. Mr. Chair, these 3 unmarked vehicles, historically, the National Police Department has utilized Chevy Impalas or Ford Tauruses for our unmarked vehicles. I'm sure everyone's familiar seeing them around town. Both Chevy and Ford have discontinued those models, forcing us to go with a new vehicle. We did a study, and it was determined that our best course of action is to have our unmarked vehicles mirror our marked vehicle units. There's many benefits to that. I can walk you through this package. It's fairly self-explanatory, but the biggest benefit I can tell you is that currently, for our marked fleet, we have the Ford Police Interceptor utility vehicle. If a marked vehicle becomes inoperable due to an accident or other damage, we're able now, if we move forward with this plan, to take an unmarked vehicle from the, say, Detective Bureau, for instance, and after retrofitting it with the emergency lighting, light bars, and audio equipment, and have another vehicle in the fleet, as opposed to the alternative would be it can take at least up to 6 months to get a new vehicle into the fleet. Additionally, all of our mechanics are very, very familiar with this vehicle. The alternative vehicle that we looked at was the Dodge Charger. It's a vehicle you can see with other police departments, including state police. It's a good car, but it's not a great fit for us in this municipality. You'll see the gas mileage, while it's consistent with the Ford, it's not as good. Also, one of the biggest issues we had was with the key. Currently, if you'd indulge me for a moment, this key I hold in my hand operates every Ford in our entire fleet at the police department, and this key operates every Chevy. If we switch our unmarked vehicles to the Ford Interceptor, as I'm asking you to allow us to do today, we'll be able to continue that model. If we have to move to another vehicle, say the Dodge Charger with that technology, each individual vehicle would have its own key. And to get a new key, which does happen when things get lost or, outdated, would be a cost of $20 per key, which becomes a significant cost when you add it up. But just at the end of the day, wear and tear and being able to have the interoperability between unmarked and marked vehicles seemed like a no-brainer to us, and you'd see the cost is still fairly consistent.
Okay, Alderman Clay?
Yeah, I just have one quick question. The nice thing about having an unmarked vehicle is that it's unmarked and no one knows. I don't know a lot about these vehicles, but are these a very common vehicle that we would see on the street so that I know when everybody had the Taurus or everybody had that, people would say, that's an unmarked vehicle. It was, you just knew. And if you bought one, people would say, oh, you got a police vehicle. Would that happen here, or are these a very, very common vehicle that you would just see them on the streets anyways?
Jim Testaverde, Nashua Police. It's a good question. My opinion on that is within a short period of time, the citizens of Nashua would be able to identify these vehicles from about 6 blocks away just for seeing it. At first, they're not used to seeing it. They can pick out our detective Chevy Impalas fairly quickly. But I think as time goes on, it would become commonplace.
Okay, thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly?
Forgive me, I'm trying to pull up the contract. Are you going for the hybrid or the EcoBoost?
Oh, Jim Testaverde, Police Department. We're actually going for the third. If you go to the very last page,
Yeah, I'm looking at that. Oh, that's also
the
okay.
all-wheel drive
Okay.
vehicle, just the utility, that is currently what we have in our fleet. You'll see some benefits with some of the other vehicles, but at the end of the day, in the third column, the 3.3 liter all-wheel drive vehicle, it's the lower of all the prices. It's the vehicle that we use with our MARC units. The interoperability, interchangeability would be perfect, and for some of the technical nuances, while the hybrid has slightly better gas mileage, there are up costs up front, and there'd be some up costs for maintenance upkeep potentially, which I can have Mr. Soika talk about if you'd like.
If I could follow up.
Follow up?
Yeah, I'm interested from our perspective of, I understand, you have a job to do, but also we're working on trying to be more economical from an energy and efficiency perspective. So if there's a possibility to get us to a hybrid at some point, I mean, you guys have a lot of you have a large fleet, so it would make an impact.
Brian Soika, National Police Department, Fleet Supervisor. Doing some research on the hybrids. The hybrid actually has an 8-year, 100,000-mile warranty on it, on those batteries. We keep our unmarked between 10, 12 years in that area, if not a little bit longer. Once the vehicle does come out of warranty, we would be responsible to replace those batteries, and that is a big part of that vehicle. And at this time, pricing of that battery will cost us roughly $3,700, including another 4 hours if installed from the dealership, because these batteries are huge in these vehicles, so they're very heavy to put in.
Sure.
So we looked at that too, besides the price difference of the vehicle. Maybe in the future, if prices start going down, we could look at that.
Sure. And if I could follow up.
Follow up?
Yeah, I was, as you were saying that, I mean, we're still refining hybrid ability and solar and all that stuff is starting to become more commonplace and get a little more streamlined. So maybe we can look at it in the future when it's not going to be a heavy financial burden.
To follow up on Alderwoman Kelly's question, though, I know these are going to be not actually first line, they're going to be, unmarked vehicles and everything, and not going to go through the rigors that a regular patrol vehicle would go through. But they do have the potential to be a patrol vehicle, as you have said in the case of an accident. How do hybrids actually do as a patrol vehicle? I know some of your vehicles run hot 24 hours, with the different shifts, and they don't really take a breather too much.
Brian Soika. Ford, this is the first year Ford ever has come out with a police package hybrid. They have never done that on the utility before, so it's really early at this point to see how
Right.
they're gonna hold up. The challenge is the price difference in the two vehicles. But how will they actually hold up? I can't give you that answer at this point. Will the battery be able to handle what the vehicles are requiring from it? And how long will it last, you know, for the amount of time that we use? They do a lot of idling time, so I guess at this point, we can look at it in the future and see how Fords are holding up at this point, but like I say, this is the first year that they're coming out with that vehicle. So really, nobody has that answer at this point,
Right.
except for Ford.
And for Alderwoman Kelly's concerns, and which is a good idea to try to get the planet greener. Might be something to watch, as you know, but I always stay away from the first model year of anything that I purchase. Let somebody else figure out his problems, you know. Chief Testaverde, did you want to say something more?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was going to echo what you just actually said. Because of that, the utility vehicle that we're currently using, we've had for about 5 years now, and it's been tested, and you're absolutely right. Some of these vehicles, as soon as one officer is getting off of shift, that vehicle has no time to cool down. Another officer is jumping in it, and they do truly run 24 hours a day.
Any further questions, members of the board? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those who are in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I will refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding purchase of NPD ammunition with a value of $58,189. Department is 150 Police Fund Ammunition and Supplies Account. I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of NPD ammunition to Eagle Point Gun / TJ Morrison Son in the amount of $58,189. Funds are available in Department 150 Police Fund Ammunition and Supplies.
Welcome. Would you like to give us a brief synopsis of
Yes, sir. Officer Dave Elliott, Nashville Police Department. Bottom line, what we're looking to do is order the ammunition that's required to sustain the department for the next year. If of that ammunition, we order two types, what we classify as duty ammunition and training ammunition. The duty ammunition is specially designed, higher quality control for that duty purpose. Training ammunition, we normally order two types. Full metal jacket, which is the cheapest version. That's our outdoor ammunition. And then we also order specialty ammunition, which is frangible, designed for indoor range. The big change this year is additional, more frangible ammunition, as we're trying to transition our indoor range to frangible only. Traditionally, what we shot was called a total metal jacket, which still had a lead core. So the goal is to start transitioning out anything with lead in it on the indoor range and go to a frangible round. If you're not familiar with frangible round, there's zero lead in it. It's compressed copper. When it hits something, it pretty much just turns into a powder. And that's what we're trying to go to in the indoor range because of some of the lead issues.
Alderman Laws?
Just my personal curiosity. So we've switched over to the 6-hour 9mm as the duty weapon, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was there a large supply of 40mm ammo left over from?
Yes, sir, there was.
And what did you do with it?
We found a company that was willing to accept it and trade for 9mm ammunition.
That's wonderful.
We ended up trading, if I remember correctly, the numbers off the top of my head, about 100,000 rounds of 40 cal for 80,000 rounds of 9mm.
Well,
So it was actually huge that the company helped us out, because if we had lost that stock, honestly, we'd be asking for quadruple what we're asking for now, because it really would have put us behind.
well, thank you for that.
Sir.
Further questions, members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I refer to the clerk.
Communication from Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager, regarding 2 rear-load Packer trash trucks with a value of $552,190. Department is 168 Solid Waste Fund Bond. I move to accept, place on file, and award the purchase of 2 rear-load Packer trash trucks to McNeilius Truck in the amount of $552,190. Funds are available in Department 168 Solid Waste Fund bond.
Thank you for joining us. Would you please identify yourself and just give us a brief synopsis?
John Stewart, Fleet Manager, DPW. These two Packers are replacing two other, or they're not replacing, we're adding them to the fleet. They have 2 older Packers now that have quite a few hours on them and miles, and they're requiring more and more maintenance. And we are loaning out the solid waste trucks to the Parks Department to help them with picking up the trash at the parks. So with the increased maintenance, we need to be able to get these trucks in on a timely basis and maintain them. And this will help alleviate some of that backlog of work we have.
Further questions, members of the board? But the reason, I will just for my knowledge, I did find this out, but basically the reason for the rear packer, some neighborhoods, you can't use the truck with the arm
Correct.
because of the way the close proximity of the neighborhood. It's best to collect the trash with the rear loader, and so this would fit more for those particular neighborhoods. I know in my neighborhood, I have the truck with the arm, which I always enjoy watching, but, so that's it. All right, seeing no
Also,
further.
in the yard waste department, it helps in picking up that.
Oh, yes, the yard waste department, yes, absolutely. Picking up all of that's timely right now. Yeah. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll refer to the clerk.
I turned the page too quickly. Communication
problem.
from Dan Kukin, Purchasing Manager, regarding contract for Greeley Park Boat Ramp with a value of $419,495. The department is 184 Community Development Fund grant. I move to accept, place on file, and award the contract for the construction of a Greeley Park Boat Ramp to Northeast Earth Mechanics in the amount of $419,495. Funds are available in Department 184 Community Development Fund grant. You all laugh, but you don't have to
Thank you.
clerk with all these words.
Mr.
and all these
Casagano, please
numbers.
come up. Yes, thank you. Welcome. I try to get you a pickup truck. We have, please identify yourself, and if you
Thank
want to
you,
give a
Mr.
brief, and then we have a
Chairman.
question pending.
Nick Caggiano, Parks and Rec Superintendent. I'm here to award the purchase of the boat ramp construction to the low bidder who we negotiated with. If you look through, you'll see that they came in at a higher price. We weren't able to fund that, so we brought them in, negotiated with them. They sharpened their pencils, and we decided as a division that we were going to be able to do some of the work in-house to give us additional savings, and we're ready to go.
Okay. Alderman Kelly, excuse me, Clee, excuse me.
That's okay. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for working with them. This is very important, this Greeley Park boat ramp. For those in the audience who don't understand, this will be our only boat ramp from, I think, Manchester to Lowell. There's no other stop in between. It's going to help increase traffic. It's going to make that whole area that much better, and being able to use this grant and so on, I really appreciate all the hard work. Can you give just a quick overview of some of the stuff that we can do in-house versus?
Sure.
Thank you.
So when after we work with them, we are going to be organizing the logging operation of approximately 2.8 acres. That may start as soon as late next week. We'll be building the roads. We'll be building the detention basins and the drainage parts. We'll be putting in the gates that will stop vehicle access on the loop roads. We'll be doing the sign package. Basically, what the company that Northeast Mechanics will be doing is the actual ramp itself and the knee walls that'll be alongside it.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Alderman Karen.
Thank you. I know this has been a project in the works for 100 years, so were the neighbors involved in any way, especially because it's going to be a lot bigger and different than it has been over the last 30 or 40 years?
Nick Caggiano, Park and Rec Superintendent. Yes, they were. There were two public meetings. There was a charrette up in the auditoriums where the neighbors came in and gave us their feedback. It also has gone through infrastructure, zoning board, the conservation committee, and the planning board, at which all those times the public could have commented, and it was passed by the Board of Aldermen almost a year ago.
Yeah, it's a long time coming, but
Long time coming, and one of the things that wasn't mentioned, and police and fire aren't here anymore right now, but it's also going to improve the safety of the area. And, you know, that long loop when somebody's in distress takes time, and it's hard to maintain that long loop, where this way there'll be a straight shot. Emergency vehicles can get down there if they need to much quicker.
thank you.
If I may, you are absolutely right. I was the former executive officer of the dive team for National Fire Rescue, and they come with engine companies, the ladder companies, the tools, equipment that are needed, the dive truck that carries the air tanks and the equipment and everything, and it was very tight quarters, turn around large pieces of apparatus and everything else, and always the boats went in okay, but it definitely needed some TLC. And besides the emergency point, our river, in my opinion, has been underutilized. You know, you do see a lot of boats coming up from Lowell, but we don't see the good folks from Nashua going, you know. And maybe this might afford a new opportunity to make a little quality of life issue better for the citizens. Alderman Clayton.
Yeah, and I want to echo what you just said. That is one of the kudos of it. It will bring people to Nashville stopping there, and there were other activities that they talked about. The other thing that I like about this is it's going to create safety within that area where we have a lot of transient people kind of going in there. This will give more. I've personally walked into it's my ward, so I've personally walked into that area, and it's really a very lovely wooded area. But there's all kinds of things going on into that area, and this is going to make it safer, and it's going to make it safer for those neighbors that, like at Tufts and so on, that kind of that's their backyard. So I really applaud. Like I said, this has been much longer than I've been on the board, obviously, long time coming, but I'm glad to see that this went through and all the hard work that so many people did to make it happen.
And Alderwoman Kelly.
Yeah, I was going to comment something of the same. I'm on the Conservation Commission, and so we saw this plan a number of months ago in terms of the wetland buffer, but I was just blown away by how meticulous it was in terms of lighting and what we're using for the parking lots and how that works from trailers standpoint. And also, if I remember correctly, we're going to have a handicap accessible boat ramp.
That Nick Caggiano, Park and Rec Superintendent, that was one of the items that we had to pull to make our funding, but it was designed in a way that it can be added later. So that could easily be done once some more funding gets appropriated. So we'll be on it.
All right, awesome. Thank you.
Alderwoman Kelly, she brings up a very good point. Could you just briefly explain that to, while we're, you know, that the citizens at home know what we're talking about, the loading for handicapped persons on the boat, so they can enjoy the water experience as well?
So the design includes a handicap loading area for people with mobility issues. What will happen is you will pull your boat up. There'll be a concrete ramp that you would send the person up, and then they would be able to load level right into the boat, and you would launch the boat with them in it. The reason it's done that way is you can't really do it on the river as you see on a lake where you can have a dock because of the current of the river and the ice that will come down. You really shouldn't have a dock that's going out into it. So you have to preload and then launch.
Well, it's my hope that we could maybe in the future find some monies to do that. I believe equally that they should have, people of handicap should have access and enjoy a nice afternoon of boating. So absolutely,
Thank you. The remaining part for that work, we're pretty confident that we could do that in-house if
Oh,
if
good.
the funding became available, so it
Beautiful.
wouldn't require another contract.
Outstanding, outstanding. Further questions, members of the board? Okay. Oh, I do have one. Parking, because people come with boats, they come with trailers.
So there'll be Nick Caggiano, Park and Rec Superintendent. There'll be 24 parking spots.
Thank you.
Uh,
Just to point it out, yeah.
2/3 will be will be lengthened for boats with trailers, and then there'll be another third will be for carry on
Good,
car top one.
beautiful. Okay, seeing no further questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfinished business,
There's none.
new business resolutions,
There are none.
record of expenditures.
I move that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period from November 1st, 2019 to November 14, 2019.
Okay. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. General discussion? Alderman Laws.
Something I probably should have asked you or CFO Griffin 18 months ago. Just out of curiosity, can we possibly get, because I know like I see a bunch of, we're buying new trucks, we're buying new cars, and I know that you're selling old stock in some cases. Is there any way, and I hate to give you more work, but is there any way that we could get a list of the money that we're taking in from selling old inventory in the city? And that way taxpayers could see that it's not just us spending money, we're actually taking some money in as well.
Dan Kuchen, Purchasing Manager. We sell quite a few vehicles on public surplus auction, and I can provide the record of that, like, I'm sure for the last at least year. I mean, it goes back. So we're able to see all the closed auctions and everything. But yeah, I could probably make that available.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right.
At least satisfy my curiosity. Thank you.
Further, probably to assist, that's the White Farm run by the state, correct?
Actually, it is not. We do invite all the departments to participate in the, I believe it's spring and fall auctions that they do up there. It's been a couple years at least since we sent any vehicles up there. We've actually had much better luck with the public surplus auction,
Oh, okay.
returning higher value than what that is. And a lot of the vehicles get traded in as well, but that's usually documented when you see a trade in.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Public comment?
No members of the public?
Nobody's here, so that's good. Remarks by Alderman? Oh, Alderwoman Kelly.
I just wanted to remind everyone that there is a joint special, why can I think? Joint Special Building Committee, thank you. School building, that's what the other S is. It's been a long day. It's actually going to be at Maine Dunstable School with a public question and answer. So if you are interested in learning more about the middle school project, 7 p.m. tomorrow at Maine Dunstable School.
Very good. No need, anybody else? We're all set. No need for non-public, which is good. Looking for a motion. Alderman Karen. Excuse me.
A motion to adjourn.
Thank you. We'll call the meeting ended at,
Don't we have to vote on the agenda?
oh yeah, all those in favor to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I knew you would do it. Okay, we'll call the meeting adjourned at 7:55. Thank you.
Thank you.